Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons. Welcome to Forged from Iron. This is the big debate. Welcome one and all. Welcome to Forged from Iron. This is the big debate, as I say, and as I always implore you to do, please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure you hit that bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. So without further ado, I will let these people, these fine individuals, introduce themselves in turn, starting with panelist number 1.
Hi everyone. So I'm Bill. Been a West Ham fan all my life. First game was the 5-4 game against Bradford in 2000, and been since the goal for a number of years. And as Gates kindly put in the banner, I've got my own YouTube channel, Garage Football, where I do a lot of vlogs, watch-alongs, and other football content. So cheers.
Panelist number 2.
Hi, my name's Dennis. I can outdo Bill just a little bit on my first game, in that my first game was Di Canio's last goal at Upton Park, 1-0 against Chelsea in 2003. I had Man United forced on me from a young age from my dad, but I managed to break free and support West Ham. Season to get older in the West Stand, and regular contributor to the West Ham way.
There you go. Panelist number 3.
Hi, my name's Jazz. I've got my own West Ham YouTube channel called West Ham Irons Channel. Been a fan since 1983. My dad was a West Ham fan from the early 70s. First match was Bradford at home, Stuart Slater scoring 2 goals in August 1989. Try to go to as many games as I can. So, yeah, you can watch me on West Ham Irons Channel.
And he doesn't have a YouTube channel. He's the odd one out. But panelist number 4.
I'm the odd one out in more than one way today. I obviously misunderstood the title of the video. I didn't realise it was big. I brought tissues. But I'll try and adapt, you know. My first West Ham game would have been when I was about 4. Can't remember who it was. I just know I've been going pretty much all my life. Every picture from me as a kid is in little West Ham outfits and whatnot. So it's been a lifelong pain for me. Last couple of years have been okay in comparison. But yeah, I don't have a YouTube channel, as Gatesy said. I'm just Charlie. I pop up occasionally on other people's things. that's about it.
Fair. Right. Okay. So, hang on. There we go. Right. Okay. So let's get stuck into this. And if any of you guys in the live chat, as it says there on the banner going across, please put any questions that you've got in for the panel on the live chat. Start it with a Q. It makes it easier to find. Can't promise I'm going to get through all of it. We're on a tight schedule here, but I'll do my very best. So we have a video contribution from someone that may be familiar to you guys.
Hello people, what's going on? Hope everyone is all well. Debate show tonight for Forge for Arms, and here's a question from me. Declan Rice is looking like he could be on his way out in the summer. First of all, question number one is, what is the minimum you would take for Declan Rice? And question number two, who would you replace Declan Rice with? And how much money would you spend out of the money that we receive for Declan Rice? Anyway, that's enough from me. Take care. Peace.
There you go, Declan Rice. He's been in the news a little bit lately. I'll tell you what. We'll start with you, Dennis. Double a triple-headed question. So, amount required to sell Declan Rice, who replaces him, and how much does his replacement cost, in your opinion?
I mean, I'm tempted just to say 800 million straight off the bat, but it also, for me, I'm going to sound a little bit weird here. It depends who you sell him to. For me, for example, if he goes to someone that we would consider a bit of a London rival, I'd think that we probably would try and fleece them for a bit more money, than if he were to go to someone. I don't think he's going to go to City with everything that's coming out of there, and he has stated many times he wants to stay around London. Being realistic and logical, I'd say 100. Bear in mind his contract's gone down a bit. I'd say 125 with potentially some form of percentage of another sale. Should he then make a step up to someone like a Real Madrid or whatever, hypothetically, would be good business. Who I'd replace him with? Let me consult the Football Manager shortlist. But I don't really know off the top of my head. I mean, there's some people that could argue, and it's no doubt will set some fireworks off, that Flynn Downs could be some form of a semi-adequate replacement based on his performances. A slightly left field one is Sanderberg at Sheffield United, but I don't expect them to sell us to him in a hurry, knowing how bitter their fans still are about everything, as I found out this morning. Tweeting about Wrexham, I just get a load of rubbish about Carlos Tevez. Well, hey. So, and how much does his replacement cost? I mean, the money you're going to get, if it's 125, it's 150, it's 100. Some of that is probably going to have to pay off the bill from last time. From looking at it from a realistic point of view, but ultimately, you need. I'm not saying to buy, going out and buy a whole fleet of players with that. But you'd think with the stage we're at now, we'd go out and maybe buy 2 or 3 top quality players to add to the squad, like what we probably look to do with the signing of Paqueta, the signing of Scamacca, a couple of quality players while the squad needs fleshing out. But as I said, the only thing I fall short on there is an adequate replacement, because I don't think we can really like for like replace him. I'm just thinking of adequate central midfielders that could come in. Short of having a Football Manager shortlist in front of me, I'm not going to be able to give you an answer.
Fair enough. How about yourself, Jazz? James's triple threat question.
Yeah, it's a funny time because we're all hearing about the Manchester City issue, financial fair play. I don't know how many more clubs are going to fall under that banner. So that could stop a lot of clubs from spending as much as they would like, which is, again, sod's law. And West Ham's always part of bad luck sometimes. I'm thinking of 19 million for a CDM, I think. That probably might break the record for a CDM. So usually, yes, strikers and wingers go for a lot more than that. And centre backs, dare I say, and full backs. Yeah, CDMs for some reason have never really gone for much. So I'm thinking around the 90, 100 million mark. Who replaces him? It depends on the formation of the manager. In our current climate and our current issue with David Moyes is that, yeah, he wants to play Paqueta as one of the CDMs. That means, yeah, you're looking for someone to play next to Paqueta. And my feeling is that get 90, 100 million for Declan Rice. But what you don't have to do, because Rice is a bit of a freak when it comes to CDMs, where he's a lot more talented, can do a lot more things on the field than your usual CDM. But we mustn't forget that a usual CDM is a 20, 25 million player who tackles well, wins the ball back, a lot of energy, then straight away gives it to someone who obviously has got more creativity, more talent, dare I say. So get 100 million in, spend 2025 on a typical CDM, whether that's Basuma, Sandenberg, I don't know. But if you want to play Paqueta in that number 10 role, then you've got to replace two people. Then I would break the bank, or certainly bit more than 2025 and get Ward-Prowse is one of those two CDMs in there, really. So again, it's a very, very difficult question for me. Amount required, Declan Rice, around 100 million if you do the add-ons as well. Who replaces him? Three people: Basuma, Ward-Prowse, or Sandenberg, depending on where Paqueta. Do you want him to be the number 10, replacing Benrahma? So that frees up two sort of places. So it's kind of, it's a difficult question because there's different scenarios, isn't it, over manager and formation and where do you want to play, really. But I wouldn't want to spend all of that on a CDM. I want a bulk of that money going on the left back and right back, but that's for another question, another discussion, I think. Yeah.
Fair. Bill, what are your thoughts on James's question?
Questions, mate, plural.
Questions.
Yeah, I think
Doesn't do anything by halves, that boy.
Yeah, no, three really good questions though. I think you have to look at the market with Enzo Fernandez, a similar kind of midfielder. He's just joined Chelsea for just over 100 million. So I think by that logic, we've got to look at least that to get that for Declan. I don't think you could buy one player to replace him. You probably need to buy a couple of midfielders, and maybe if there's any spare money, get another left back in. So I think guys already mentioned some good options. I think Caicedo, obviously, who's been linked with Arsenal, he'd be a direct option. I'd buy straight away, but obviously he'd probably move on to want to play for a Champions League club, which is fair enough. But I think I would disagree that James Ward-Prowse is too old. He's approaching the prime of his career, so he's physically fit. He'll play for a number of years, so he's been linked with us before. So I'd move heaven and earth to get Ward-Prowse in the club. Someone like Basuma as well, obviously, but obviously I think you'd want to play more for Tottenham over the coming years, so be able to get him. But I think as I say, at least 100 million. Probably have to buy, because Declan is an all-action midfielder. You probably have to buy a couple of players to make up for the loss of his.
No.
I think what we got to do though is do better than what Tottenham did a number of years ago, which they failed to do. Was they sold their star asset in Gareth Bale and basically spunked all their money. Apart from Christian Eriksen, who was a good player. Apart from that, no one else sold Dardo. All those kind of players were rubbish. So we've got to buy the right type of players. So yes, it's a hard one.
Fair. And we'll finish with yourself, Charlie.
You know what? I'm trying to find something to say that the other guys haven't already said.
Sorry, mate.
But I would say that to sell Declan Rice, probably, I'd say even 100 on the nose, I would take, because one thing I don't agree with that's been kind of the theme of this discussion is that we'd need more than one player to replace Rice. I think we've got other players in the team that do one half of what Rice does well already. I think that all we'd really need to do to replace him is to get another fully defensive-minded character there. But then I think that Downs could do the defensive side of it, and you could still have Souček and Paqueta, for example, in front of him. And I can't imagine we'd be much worse than we are with Rice playing there now. Because whilst he brings a lot to the team, and whilst he is a really talented guy with a lot of class, you can see that playing him how he wants to play doesn't necessarily help our team. So I think that, Onana is a really good shout. Caicedo was another really good shout. If we're being unrealistic and we've just sold him for 100 million and we know we've got a couple 100 million always every season to spend now, then there's no reason we wouldn't go and buy Bellingham to replace him, right? And then Downs would be able to do Rice's job. Bellingham could do Souček or Paqueta's job, and then Paqueta can move into a number 10, or he can play next to him. It wouldn't be a huge issue. But realistic options, you've got to say maybe Caicedo, relegated Onana, possibly. I know not really the age profile, maybe Núñez. There's a few players there that could fill the spot.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What did you make yesterday when you heard? Was it yesterday, day before this story about Declan Rice? They're putting noises out that Manchester United were knocked back with £100 million bid in the summer. They're looking at trying to get 120 million plus add-ons. I mean, you're shaking your head, Dennis. You're probably thinking the same thing that I'm thinking.
We're allowed to swear before it's after 9.
It's after 9. You can say what the fuck you like.
Bullshit.
It's typical. It's very typical. What did we do this window? What did we do? Yeah, we signed Ings. We signed people. What happens at the end of every window or near the end of every window? We tried. This is the opposite. We're keeping hold of our asset. We turned down 100 million for Declan Rice. The between the lines, they're trying to say to people, we could have had money to spend, but we would have had to have sold Deckers. That's what they're saying. That's all they're saying. And for the record, Bellingham wouldn't come, even if we could afford him. Bellingham wouldn't come to us.
I threw it out there that was a massive.
He's going big time. He's going big time. Liverpool, Real Madrid, or maybe United. And by the way, I have a little joke with my friends when it comes to sale of Rice, because I've got a friend that for years has always said that he's a centre back, he's worth 60 million, he's overrated, we can replace him with Phil Jones. I am putting a United tax on Declan Rice. If they want to sign him, it's going to cost them 400 million. I will part exchange Maguire and they can have him for 395 million.
400 million, I reckon, would get you that as well.
So I missed the comment there.
Margot Robbie.
Yeah,
that should do it.
Million.
I think so.
Get your wallet out, Charlie.
No, there's a United tax, and it's down to my friend that thinks we could replace him with Phil Jones. This is basing on he bases on the fact he had scored twice one season, but once the other, so therefore was declining as a player.
Does anybody, Jazz? Do you believe 120 million is feasible in the summer? Or do you think the same as Dennis, that it's a load of old bollocks?
I think they've put that story out there because obviously they're preparing to sell him, and what they like to do is plant the story out there and then watch every channel, watch every news, every website, every Twitter, see what the fans' reaction is, that kind of thing, and then accordingly see what they want to do about it. It's difficult to say because usually it's kind of a fee and then the add-on. So I don't know if it's going to be 100 million plus add-ons. And half of those add-ons, is it winning the Champions League? Is it being sold again? Sell on value? There's lots of things, but West Ham are not clever at getting A, the top price for their players, and B, being clever enough to negotiate these kind of things like sell on value. They just don't do it for many, many reasons. I don't know. I think even the youngsters, as you know, they're all going for next to nothing anyway, and that kind of thing. So
we have started recently slipping a future sale clause in. I don't know about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but it's my understanding the last sort of 3-4 seasons now, when we have let these talented youngsters go, we have slipped a sort of a clause in there that says if you sell them on,
we did that with Cullen was the guinea pig for that one. Something like 25% of the future sale, which gets us like a couple $100,000 a few years down the line. It's pennies in the ocean compared to what we spent close to 150 million in summer. It's pennies on. It's just pennies coming in. It's just
You know why it's pennies though, don't you?
Because we're selling.
None of them are making it. That's why it's pennies. So this is where it's one of them ones. It kind of proves the point that they were never going to make it anyway. If they don't make it, the next step.
The only exception to an extent is Cullen, who's currently smashing it in a certain to be promoted Burnley side. Be interesting if he then is kept on for the Prem. And equally, my mate who's a Sunderland fan cannot rave enough about Alessi. Does not understand why we let go of him. Said should have loaned him and given him a contract. I'm from Watford. When he scored the equaliser for Sunderland against Watford early in the season, and Watford fans were saying he was absolutely immense at the back. Reminded them of Danny Shitu back in the day.
I watched the, I think it was Middlesbrough game last week. They played last week. And he looks sharp. He looks really sharp.
Talking about sell on value, Fernandes deal, I think one of his old clubs got 28 million in that deal.
Yeah, I heard that. Nice. Yeah, nice little sell on clause.
it's well worth it. The other thing I wanted to know, I don't know if any of you guys on the show know, I'd love to know how many players from the West Ham area, like Essex, go to Chelsea, Spurs, and other clubs. I'm really interested to know that because obviously Chelsea and Man City, well, especially Chelsea, have turned it into a good business where Gallagher and all sorts of players go for 30 million. They always flog a couple of them off every year. So, and where Sullivan's attitude always was, well, once in a blue moon, I'm not going to invest any money. And you can see that on the training ground and other things. So I don't know if you guys know, do we attract all the players from our back garden, so to speak, or do they go off to Arsenal's and Chelsea's and Spurs? I don't know.
I'll let you go with that one, Bill.
Yeah, also it's just hard to say for certain, but yeah, I mean, you know, taking the West Ham side, supporting bias out of it, would I let my siblings or you know offspring or whatever go to West Ham, or would I go to somewhere like Arsenal where it's not that far, or even Tottenham where it's not that far away, but you're getting much better? I mean, Tottenham's training ground is a joke. Their stadium is a joke, like in comparison to ours, and you know, Arsenal's facilities are amazing, Chelsea's are amazing. So, and you look at Man City with the Ed campus and all that; they've completely revolutionised that area of the Eastlands, like Manchester. So, compared to what we've got at Rush Green in Romford, it's night and day, isn't it? So, that probably plays a part.
Right,
just to come in, there was that winger. I can't remember. I'm really forgetting his name, but he was highly rated. Holland, that's it. Nathan Holland went. Yeah, he went on loan at Oxford, and first comment was how much better the training facilities were.
He's still out,
and he went
now,
Oxford.
isn't he?
I'm not sure if he's still there. I think he might have actually moved on because he went there permanently. But when he went on loan, the first thing he said when he went on loan was how much better the training facilities were.
That's worrying, isn't it?
Are we the worst in the league, do you think? Are we near there or thereabouts?
One of them.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'd go as far. And again, Watford are in the Championship, but their training facilities are a lot more better than, and they literally use a field basically.
I think even Fleetwood's cost more than ours.
Yeah, they've got a really good training facility.
It's a friend of mine.
More expensive than ours.
A friend of mine is actually the captain of Oxford United. And he was saying that Holland is very hot and cold. So he was saying that some days, if the team's winning, he looks brilliant. And if the team's losing, he looks atrocious.
Well, gentlemen, you remember Dean Garner? I don't know what's happened to him. I haven't heard anything, have we?
Yeah, I don't think he's doing all that much better. But
he scored last week, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because it got mentioned actually in the group chat. Someone said about one person doing nothing, and it come up and was like, "Yeah, he's just scored." And then we said about someone else doing nothing, and it was like, "Yeah, he just got an assist."
It's just written in the stars, isn't it? So it's a bit like Leeds 2-0 up against Man United. You couldn't make it up. You really couldn't. Right, we got a couple of questions that we've had submitted via the live chat. Hammer89, there's your question, matey. He asks, do you think that the London Stadium will ever be revamped? So we'll start with you, Jazz.
Oh my God. The issue is you can certainly move the seats more closer, square it off a bit more, put things behind the goals. You know, those. I think the thing that I hate the most is behind the goals, that big space and things like that.
Scaffolding,
then you can't. Yeah, you can't change when you're sitting in the upper tiers. You can't move those guys forward anymore. So it'll be cheap for someone to buy, and you can temporarily fix it. But for me, I'm not sure if there's a way where you can knock half of it and then do half. I'm not really, obviously, I'm not an architect or anything. It's a hard question. I mean, from where I'm looking, I think it's hard to match the likes of, say, Tottenham or someone like that. And we've gone from the ground that's perhaps the closest the fans were to the pitch, and in terms of a classic old ground that, yeah, the away fans were quite fond of it, to something that's not even a football stadium, really. I don't enjoy going there anymore. I don't think I've mentioned it. I just don't like it, mate. It's very cold. It's just no atmosphere most of the time, and it's just can't get close to the pitch, really. So for me, Oh, it's difficult. Depends on who buys it. Someone buys it with a lot of money, then they've got the money to knock it down because you don't have to worry about the land. You buy it and then you knock it down and rebuild it again in the same location. That's option one. Option two is you just do the best you can with it. It's just, I can't give a straight answer to that. It's going to be you knock it down after buying it, build it again at exactly the same location, or you just tidy things up behind the goal and improve it by another 10% at the most, I think, because I went on the tour of the ground and it was so poor. There's only one end of the ground, the main end, the tunnel. That's actually there's rooms there, there's boxes there behind the goals and on the Billy Bond stand where I watched. There's nothing to show the fans. There's no rooms. There's nothing there. No museum. Nothing. It's a shell. I don't know if any of you guys been on the tour. It's poor. Nothing.
I haven't.
No, I don't plan to, mate. To be honest.
No, it's nothing there, mate. I mean, I was a season ticket holder, and they gave me a silly price to go there, and I went. But apart from the tunnel and the changing rooms, lads, there's nothing there worthy of mentioning, mate. But so I can't give a straight answer. Just two options I can think of really for the people who are going to be still in charge of the club. Yeah,
Fair. Over to you, Bill, on the Hammer 89's question there about the London Stadium.
Yeah, I think it was Charlie that put up in the chat. I think he made a really good point about knocking it down and starting back up. You look at what, exactly, small improvements. There's not much you can do because the LLDC, Sebco, etc. They fucked it up by awarding us the stadium and not having a football succession in place. You look at Manchester City with what I think it was the Commonwealth Games in 2002. I think it was. It was called the City of Manchester Stadium, and then was designed to be played for football afterwards. And with what's happened with us, football wasn't put in the succession plan, which is farcical and so short-sighted, and it's cost in terms of the facility, it's not as good as it should be. You look at Tottenham. They obviously White Hart Lane, they've moved to the site next door, and I think something like that would probably have to be the best alternative instead of revamping it, because there's only so much you can do really. There's probably little bits you can do as Fever's put standing sections and all that, but it's a glass ceiling with that stadium. You're not going to get and with certain games like the Sevilla game and Tottenham games and probably Chelsea this Saturday, Amsterdam will be decent, but there's only let's say we're not all architects, but there's a glass ceiling with the stadium as it is, and what it will be eventually.
Fair. And over to you, Charlie. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I actually quite like the stadium.
Ooh, controversy.
Yeah, one of the few, I guess. Don't get me wrong. I loved Upton Park. It was home. It was where, if I ever think about my dad bringing me to the football, showing me what West Ham's all about, it's the Anne Boleyn and then the stadium. So obviously, there's what's the word?
The
you miss
history,
it.
the nostalgia.
That's the one, nostalgia. But I think we have to be realistic and recognise that we've got the fourth biggest stadium in the Premier League. We've got,
I think
maybe even third.
I think it's the third actually. I think it's ahead of the Emirates, only slightly behind Tottenham Stadium. And
200 seats behind Tottenham, I believe. And I think we're the third biggest stadium in the league. We sell out most games. If you're sitting in the right areas, it is decent enough. It is loud. The only issues are obviously any new front rows. If it rains, they get wet because the roof is only so big.
Yeah.
So there's the odd issue, but does it need knocking down? I don't think so. We've got 66 odd thousand seats. We don't need to knock it down and start again. We could do with being a little closer in some parts, but I do personally think that the layout gives us more of a chance to keep the away fans quiet as well, because it works both ways. Remember, they don't have too much exposure when it comes to being able to be loud. When you think our sort of sections that are either side of them, in my opinion, they're the areas that have got the atmosphere. And as I say, I've stood there on even the Bournemouth game. We were sat right at the front in that corner near the big purple wall, and
Yeah.
we didn't sit down. Me and my son both stood on like my son was stood on his chair for 90 minutes straight. Everyone's jumping up and down, cheering, singing. This is Bournemouth, an average game against a below average team, and it was rocking. I don't think it needs too much of a revamp. I could maybe there's little things that I think do need sorting out, but I don't think it's a huge issue. I don't think it's a massive problem. Part of the atmosphere issue is more down to the fact that the security and the ball boys aren't provided by us. So you've got Man City fans sitting next to me and my boy at a Arsenal game. You've got, all sorts of weird and wonderful people. And if you complain about these people, you get moaned at. I had a go at because I pointed out to security that if this Venezuelan guy wearing a full Man City wear with people either side of him all wearing their Man City wear were doing that at Upton Park, they'd have got beaten up. And I got moaned at for that. I was like, if it was Upton Park, I would get praised for knocking you out. Like, I think that's the only issue. The stadium itself isn't the issue. I think the way it's being ran is the issue I take with the stadium. The price of the beer, the price of the food, the queuing for so much. Everything is 30, 35-minute queues. So, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that's not been done right, but I don't think the layout of the stadium is the big issue here.
Fair enough. And to wrap this one up, Dennis, your thoughts?
I think Charlie did really top job just summing up some of my things in the stadium move has happened. There's so many things we can do with the pitch, but they won't happen. I think if you sort everything else out, it will over time be okay. Like, it has gotten better. There's an element of, I call it post-lockdown euphoria. Me and Bill went to the first game of the season post-lockdown, Leicester, when Mickey got the goal scoring record, and it was absolutely electric.
Yeah,
One of the best great atmosphere, but not for like a rivalry or a cup game. Just people were happy to be there, and that sort of goodwill has carried over for most of the season. It's gone now because of, well, the performances haven't come up, but I'm not a million miles from that area that you were talking about, like by the wall, where I am in the West Stand lower. And the first game of the season, there were tourist fans behind me in some of the like the god awful stuff they sell at the West Ham shop, like the cheap stuff that no logical football fan would buy, like the West Ham with a German hammers thing or something like that. Like, for example, I can't remember what it was exactly they were wearing, and like one of the kids had got one of the West Ham Hawaiian shirts, and they cheered the City goals while also cheering on West Ham when they attacked. And it's like, right, they're blatantly here just for the day out. And it kind of does kill the buzz of like first game of the season, great. But then suddenly you got the person behind you jumping up and down and cheering when Haaland scores. And I'm like, right, but they were cheering on West Ham 2 minutes ago. So it's not even a case of away fans coming in. I actually, without saying their name, I in my workplace is someone that's joined that used to actually work for the company that managed the stadium. And basically, they said that there's not a lot we can really do with this, is what they told me. That realistically, you would need to knock it down to make it a fit for state-of-the-art stadium, like we're saying. But it's just, is someone literally going to come in and spend that money to knock it down? It's going to cost almost as much to do that as it does to buy the stadium. And as much as, Spurs fans are having a bit of a meltdown when, they haven't exactly got it bad, there is a knock-on effect from building that stadium that Spurs are not able to spend anywhere near as much money as their positional rivals because they're paying off the bill for building that stadium. And that's where a lot of the Daniel Levy hatred comes from, because they were like, we were okay at White Hart Lane. We would rather see investment in the playing squad and win trophies than move to a shiny new stadium. Not quite the same issue as our one, because their football stadium is built for football. But looking at that example, I think if Krasinski or someone else were to buy us, they'd spend almost as much money, if not more, on that than the takeover in the long run. So I think more is a case of getting your ducks in a row, sorting out tourist fans, sorting out away fans coming in the home end, lower the drinks prices and the food prices. People talk about the drinks prices, food prices, and I'm diabetic. I get a Diet Coke. It's £5. for a Diet Coke, depending sometimes where you go.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah, and it's like, hang on a minute, might as well have one of those £8 warm pints of beer that's poured directly like that and is about that much head. It's almost as bad as that one we had at England. When I had at England, Bill.
Yeah, England Germany game. Yeah, Nations
England
League.
Germany
Yeah,
game.
Yeah, hilarious.
I had a beer that was that much beer.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I did actually go back and be like, mate. Like,
no tilting in the side or any of that. It was literally as if he just poured it for the first time.
The ring full of the can was at the bottom of the plastic cup.
Did he hand you a flake?
That was all that was missing with Gates.
To be fair, I wish I'd thought of that at the time. But what I'm saying is, I agree that I think knocking down the stadium is the only solution, but realistically, it's not going to happen. We've rounded off the pitches. I agree that doing something with that in-between bit, behind the scoreboard, if it's safe and possible. But fundamentally, if you get the rest of the match day experience going right and the football goes well on the pitch, it's not so much of a problem, in my opinion.
I think going back to your Spurs comments is that they fixed the loans at record low interest levels. Sort of when interest levels were 0.5 and 0%, and all Spurs are doing is just paying interest, and the actual lump sum they'll just keep rolling it forward into the future 10 15 years whenever, not even worry about that. And in the meantime, the income that they're earning on match days is phenomenal compared to West Ham. I mean, they keep all the profit. I think they sign up American football, all the boxing and all that kind of thing. So, and they have spent money, Spurs, although it's not a Spurs show. They have spent money. I mean, 20 million on Spence, don't even play him. They bought another 40 million fullback, and then Bentancur and Klevesky, is it all those guys? So I think Spurs fans are one of those that are always moaning anyway. But I think Daniel Levy a bit better than what we've got anyway, put it that way, I think. So, yeah,
more competent. But, I'm just giving context of, but knowing us, we'll do that, and it will be 10 times worse,
Yeah, I'm not that, in terms of the. No, go on, Jazz.
I'm just saying, like, even though match day income, it's got to be split, isn't it, between the owners of the ground? We don't keep all of it. Ground sponsorship bill, as you know, that's gone on for years, isn't it? I don't think we're ever going to get anyone in, but that could be an economic thing where other people are finding it hard to find sponsors as well. Anyway,
yeah. I mean, it's a very polarizing issue. I mean, I get that from a business point of view, it was probably an offer that they couldn't turn down. I mean, if you look at all of the bits and pieces that Gold and Sullivan, the late David Gold and David Sullivan got offered when they were being offered the stadium, they couldn't really turn it down from a business point of view, could they? But it's just that it is fundamentally an athletic stadium that they've tried to shoehorn football in, and it's better than it was when we first walked through the door in 2016. But fundamentally, it's an athletic stadium, and until such time as we own the stadium, and from what I'm told, we can't just go up to Sadiq Khan or whoever's the Prime Minister at the time, obviously Rishi Sunak right now, and say, here's a barrel load of cash. Can we buy that stadium off you, please? Because it's a government asset, my understanding is that it has to be put out to a tender process. Mm-hmm. So we might not, we could put in a bid for it. We might not necessarily win that bid.
Thing is, not many people will really bid for it, will they?
There's a lot of Qataris that own land around London Stadium, don't they, boys?
Yeah, to be fair, they do own a lot of the property around the area. They've been buying it up in droves as well.
I mean, Bill, should I tell them my theory on who's going to buy West Ham?
Go on.
Yeah, go on then.
Vince McMahon.
Ooh.
He's going to sell the WWF. He's going to buy West Ham. Triple H is going to pedigree David Moyes and announce that he's fired. And I don't know.
Is he going to join the Kiss My Arse Club?
I don't know. No, Teddy Long's going to come out and be the interim manager.
Yeah, and Eric Bischoff will be involved as well.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff or things like that. But basically, whoever misses a penalty has to go 1-on-1 with the Undertaker and stuff like that. I
think I mentioned on Two Spanners podcast from Hammer's Chat. I mentioned on there actually that I would quite like to see Tino as our manager.
Fair enough.
Sorry?
But just on the stadium gates, I think it generally depends where you sit as well. I've got to say, in terms of your experience.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, because Dennis is sat next to me where I sit, and mine's a decent view. I've got to say, because I'm probably more upper 249 right in line with the penalty spot. Me personally, and this is how much I pay a season, about 300 quid, 320. I think for 19 games of Prem football with that view is all right, actually.
Yeah.
I've got to say, really good value for money. But if you sat in the West Stand, right, upper, near where the media sit, and you see the pictures from there every Saturday of their view, it's horrendous. It's awful. Probably get binoculars on the way in.
Not so much about the view, Bill. What do you think about the match day atmosphere, by and large?
Yeah, it's okay. It depends what game. I think there's a little bit of Upton Park bias where the atmosphere was incredible at Upton Park. It wasn't all the time.
It had its moments where it was
don't get me wrong, and it's a lot better with the view. And I much prefer Upton Park any day of the week. But and obviously the last season was brilliant. The atmosphere was by and large amazing every game. But at times where it was quiet as anything there. So I don't agree with the atmosphere was amazing at Upton Park every game because it simply wasn't.
I've been to West Ham Villa 3 times at Upton Park over the years. Every time, I think it was 0-0 twice, 1-1 once, and I don't recall anyone at all making any noise at any point during any of those 3 matches. I don't know why. It was just every time we played Villa, it was just boring, dull, silent. Nothing to cheer about.
Yeah. It also, what I find, I'm going to sound a bit weird here, but with Upton Park, I also found the weather played a bit of the part. Because, for example, you might remember a game, it was literally it's the game that sums up February more than anything like that, just the dreariness, greyness of February is when we got smashed 3-1 by Palace at Allardyce's last season, where Glenn Murray got sent off despite scoring twice, and we still couldn't get a glove on him. And lucky Enna Valencia shot got us a consolation. It was just so flat. It was cold. The skies were just grey the entire time. There was that crisp wind coming across. And everyone was just sort of just yeah, this is a game that's happening. It was an early, I think it was either early Saturday or a 2:00 Sunday kickoff. And it was just awkward. And sometimes you'd have those games at Upton Park where the weather weren't great. The football wasn't great. You go down early, and it's what's the point? Why have we come and shelled out money to come here? We're 2-0 down at half time against a team we should be beating.
Basically, every week for a good 15 years.
Yeah.
Right, we've got another question in the video chat. Let's see what you guys think.
Hi Rob and Duke and every West Ham fan. Douglas from the Dugout Football Channel. My question basically is, because obviously I know that West Ham and Liverpool have both had a really, really bad transfer window. Do you think you guys have enough to firstly stay in the league, and secondly, do you think that you can get out of a relegation battle and maybe get top 10?
Top 10. That's. I like your optimism, Doug. What do you think there, Bill? Can we stay in the Premier League? That's the first question. And if so, do you think that there's any way that we could sneak into a top 10 finish?
Well, I think we've just got to focus on staying in the league at the moment. I think we should do with the players and the squad we've got. And obviously our recent results have been encouraging. City Newcastle on Saturday. So I think the performances are starting to turn, but obviously at the end of the day, you've got to get results. So I think we should stay up. I think if you look at the table, we're 10 points between us and Liverpool, who are 10th at the moment. So that might be a little bit of a stretch to get in the top 10, but I don't see why we can't get the upper reaches to the bottom half, 11th, 12th, 13th, something like that. But I think. We should. Well, with the squad we've got, we should be fairly comfortable. But obviously, the longer you're down there, as we've been there most of the season, the harder it is to get those wins. But with the way we're playing, and most of our players are starting to get towards their best form, and I think there's still more to come as well, which is exciting. I don't see why we can't win 2-3 games in a row. But obviously, when you're down there, it's hard to get on those winning runs. But I'm more optimistic from the last couple of games than I was sort of the end of 2022, I'll tell you that much. I think we should stay up fairly comfortably, I think.
Fair enough. Over to you, Charlie. What are your thoughts on what Doug had to say?
I would say that I saw Charlie's comment made me laugh. Liverpool's transfer window hasn't been probably as bad as ours. We've signed a guy who's injured and had his best season about 6 years ago, playing for a team that's also probably about to get relegated. And they've signed one of the hottest prospects in European football. They're not really comparable. But to the main question itself, we will stay in the Prem. I'm really confident of that. We could have no manager and still stay in the Prem. In fact, I would say, if you look at the performances we had when we had no manager, i.e. Moyes was away for COVID, etc., you were a better team without one. But top 10, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, if you'd asked me literally 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said that top 10 is doable. There's 12 teams in this league that are stuttering, that are not getting win after win after win. That gap is now changing. The gap was at 6th. Now the gap is more like 12th. I think there's like a 4-point gap either side of Palace last I checked, something like that. And they're around 12th, and that gap is getting slightly lower. And as that gap goes lower, I don't see us passing that gap. So I think that I don't think there's any worries about us getting relegated this year. But I also think that if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, is top 10 beyond reach? I'd have said no. But then if you look at the results of the teams that are around us, the teams we need to be doing better than, they are matching us or still doing better. Even though we've picked it up, the teams that we need to be doing better than are still picking it up at the level we are, if that makes sense. So I can't see us getting top 10, but I also can't see us finishing in lower than 15.
Fair enough. What's your thoughts, Dennis?
First, I just want to address bad window for Liverpool. They signed Gakpo. I mean, it's just typical. If Liverpool
Everything's relative, I suppose.
If Liverpool don't spend 250 million and then claim they didn't buy the league, despite having like 75 million a pop on a keeper and a centre back, it's the end of the world. FSG out. Oh my God! It can't just be that some of our players aren't at their best and tactically been found out. It's ridiculous. It's always the end of the world with clubs like Liverpool and Man United and to a lesser extent Chelsea. That absolutely does my head in. Like when 10th place is considered a travesty. Try actually getting relegated once in a while.
It is relative though.
It's relative, but it's still ridiculous in my honest opinion.
If we were used to being a top 4 side, 10th would be a problem for us too. It'd be
a problem, but I wouldn't be calling for everyone's head to roll, off the back of a window after deadline day. Anyway, with West Ham, we could possibly finish top 10. I still like the point you made. Like, it's a little bit out of reach mathematically now. Considering 10th place Liverpool 29 points, 11th place Villa 28 points. Then you've got the 4-point drop to Palace, Forest, and then 3 points down to Leicester. I mean, we could certainly finish comfortably safe and still finish 14th and have still be 10 points clear of the drop going into the final couple of games. I'm very confident of us staying up purely because the quality of the playing squad. This year, though, we're going to have to be good. We can't just rely on what we have done in years gone by, on there being 3 or 4 teams worse than us. Because I don't think there are really. Southampton are playing terribly, but I think they're about to get rid of the manager and get the new manager bounce. Ditto for Leeds, as we're seeing tonight. Everton are already there. Wolves are already there. And Leicester have found their rhythm again. And Forest are making it click. So there's no one out of those teams, except for maybe Bournemouth, that are actually worse than us, I would say. It's all relatively level pegging over the course of the squad. So we have to perform, be tactically astute, and be good, and not stay up by just being the 5th or 4th worst team, like we have done the last 2 times. We've been in if I hate to say it, but the last 2 times we've been in a relegation battle with Moyes. That's what saved us, by having teams worse than us. The lockdown season with Project Restart, if you remember, there was those games where it was like Villa, Bournemouth, West Ham, and but Watford were having a battle of who could get relegated and who could throw away the most points, if you remember. Because so many times it was an opportunity to go clear, and we've drawn. We've lost 1-0 to Burnley.
We did
Watford
the
have
same
scored.
thing. Sorry, Dennis, we did the same thing every time we had a chance to consolidate fourth last season.
Pretty much, and then later
every time we had
a
chance to consolidate fourth, it was, now let's lose this game.
Yeah, let's concentrate. Yeah, we were focusing on Arsenal next week. We've lost that one as well. That happened, and then it was like, but yeah. So that's what I'm saying. My only concern is we can't just exist to stay up like we did to an extent. I'm not saying totally, but to an extent, we did in the 1920 season and in 17-18 season, where there were teams worse than us that got relegated.
Jazz, can we stay in the Premier League? And can we get top 10? Oh, hang on. There you go. Hang on. You're muted.
That's better. Yeah, we can stay in the Premier League by hook or crook. It won't be as easy as some people are saying. Best finish, I think 15th is the most for me. I can't see us catching teams at 5-6 points ahead of us. I think we've got Spurs and Chelsea coming up and other hard fixtures. Obviously still in Europe and the FA Cup conference. Yeah, we could go far in that. Probably add more games to the fixture list. And yeah, we've got a couple of players decent out missing, haven't we? Zuma, so Ings is back, Skamaka's out, Cornet, we don't know what's going on. So still a few issues on that, and still a few issues around Moyes. But for me, I think we'll just about stay up about 15th, 16th. That's about as best as we can expect. So it's more or less just, it's been a bit of a wishy-washy write-off season, unfortunately, really, and start again in the summer. Already looking towards the summer already and see. But for me, it's just too much uncertainty at the club between owners, what's going to happen, manager, what's going to happen. Rice, we kind of know what's going to happen. Is anyone else going to follow out the door like Bowen? I don't know. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty around the club, and that can't be good for anyone, I think. And for me, about 15th, 16th at best, and staying up. Staying up, but not comfortably for me. Yeah.
Give us 14th from the Conference League, mate. I think we'd all snap that up.
I'd take that.
Yeah.
I'd take that. And just to clarify, Benny Sweatshirt, Jazz muted himself. I didn't mute him.
Yeah. Oh, you get the prize.
Yeah, there you go. Right. I think I've got one. We got one left. This was submitted via the YouTube channel, the community tab that we've got there. Mickey Smith, if you're watching, Mickey, you've got another one up here, mate. Asked the question: do you think that Flynn Downs will be Declan Rice's replacement if Moyes stays at West Ham? So that's an interesting angle. We'll start with you, Charlie.
Do I think he'll be Declan Rice's replacement if Moyes stays? I think yes. Yes, I think so, because I think that what happens in that instance is that Moyes tries to get 3 different targets, all of whom don't want to come and go elsewhere.
Sounds familiar.
And then he decides that actually we don't need one, we need an aging striker. I think that, not by choice. I reckon Moyes looks for someone. I'm not even saying that to joke. I mean, it started off as such, but I honestly think that's been a pattern that we've seen. I think he'll work. He'll want something he can't have, and he'll have to work with what he's got. Will be the case in point.
Fair enough. Dennis, your thoughts?
Well, I said earlier that he could potentially be. I mean, don't get me wrong. Charlie makes a pretty valid point about the whole dithering Dave bidding process. But I don't think he will, for the simple reason of if we're sold and we're still owned by Gold and Sullivan. Oh, sorry, that really Freudian slip there, Sullivan. I think there will be the need to make a point and splash out the cash on a replacement to keep the fans on side, because that's how they seem to think that keeping fans happy is making one big statement signing rather than the whole of the squad. So because of that, I think he could be, but I don't think he will, because I think there'll be pressure to buy a big, even if it's not a big marquee name, but a player with big potential, things like that, to come in and replace Rice.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Jazz, Flynn Downs, are you a fan? Do you think David Moyes is a fan?
What little I've seen of him, he's coming along quite nicely. But no, I don't think David Moyes is going to use him. I think there's some comments at the beginning of the season that he's not even ready to just, start now and again, which he isn't, is he? He's not being played. If he was thinking about that, he would have played him a lot more. So I don't think David Moyes is going to use him. No, I think he's going to go for someone else. And then, Downs will probably be on the bench for most of next season, I think. It's just the way Moyes is. And in terms of the transfer window, I think it's a right sort of mix-up between Moyes very slow to identify targets. And then once he identifies someone and we get close to even getting a medical, then he even changes his mind last minute and goes for someone else. And then the board are quite slow sometimes to get the deal done, and then Sullivan pushes his list in front of Moyes, and then if Moyes doesn't pick up the phone, he goes and signs them anyway. I think it's a bit of all those things I've just mentioned. I don't think one thing's at fault what we see, and you can see why it's just a comedy show at best in most of the transfer windows, really, which is quite complicated. But for me, no, I don't think David Moyes has got the confidence in Downs to make him an immediate starter next season if Rice goes, really, no.
Do you think David Moyes will be at West Ham next season?
Well, at the moment, we've got to assume, in terms of answering the question, that he's going to be here. If he's not going to be here, things can change. You can get a manager in that will really believe in him, motivate him, put his arm around him, putting him in more games often than not. It can happen. But with Moyes, it's slow. It's just the same. He doesn't really put his arm around a lot of the players. I don't like that. He doesn't show a lot of passion in front of the players. You see Klopp, I think there's a 16, 17-year-old Liverpool player about to come on, and Klopp was like non-stop hugging him, putting things in his ears, tapping him on the back, go on. You don't see none of that from Moyes. The only time I saw passion... The only time...
Actually, Jazz, sorry to butt in. I was going to ask, actually, if you think that maybe is a reason why we do struggle to sign anybody, because he is too scathing with people, maybe doesn't give them the pat on the back that they need, or, if you're trying to sign someone, if I wanted you to come and work for me, I'm going to be saying, Jazz, come on, look, you're my guy. You're who I need. If you don't come here, I can't do this. This won't work without you. You need to be on my team. Do you reckon that that's what's missing?
I think that's one of the things. The only time I saw him have any passion for any player was Lingard. He couldn't wait to run on the pitch and hug him, pat him on the back. He doesn't do that with anyone else. I think you can say what you want about Alex Crowd, but some of the stories coming out on a human-to-human point of view, he's treated him badly. Ben Rama, I think, is kicked off again a couple of days ago. I think you know where that's going to end up. And that is one of the reasons. He's very stubborn, and he is a kind of perhaps at best a manager of a team in the top 10, I think, in terms of winning anything or handling any more expensive players or players with flair. It's just not for him. And I think it's too late for him to change. He's 60 years old, and he was the right manager to come in. I shouted for him against all the other channels that he will stabilise us, make us more harder to beat, more fitter. But then there's a time to release someone and get someone else in when you're beginning to move to the next stage. And unfortunately, we've gone down a notch again with him. And what we've got to look for now is a West Ham manager, good football, that kind of DNA, which is so important to our dear club. Someone young, fresh, hungry, good football, and believes in the academy and shows a bit more passion on the pitch and a better backroom team staff and that kind of thing for me, really, yeah.
Fair. Over to you, Bill, for the last word. Flynn Downs, do you think Declan Rice's replacement, or do you think he needs Moyes to bugger off for that to happen?
I think, to be honest, Gates, I think no matter who's in charge, I think whether it's Moyes or someone else will have the same opinion of Flynn. I think it's still far too early in his career at the moment to be playing regular Premier League football. And this is his first season at this level. And I think it surprised me how much he's actually played, I'll be honest, already. And it's not a huge amount. I thought he played a lot less than this, to be honest. But from what I've seen of it, I think there's definitely potential there. But we have to remember Declan Rice wasn't the player he was when he first come in. He was in and out of the side, made mistakes. It's only obviously the last few years he's become the player he has. So I think Flynn would need another season or so at this level, and maybe then he'd maybe potentially play majority of games the season after. So I think that'll be the case no matter who's in charge of West Ham. I think, if Rice goes in the summer, I think it'd be imperative we do get at least one central midfielder, possibly two, who are, approaching their potential or experienced campaigners in this division. And as I say, maybe the season after Flynn plays more games. But I've been impressed with him so far from what I've seen. Certainly got a lot about him. Gets around the pitch, he's tenacious, good with the ball, puts a tackle in. So all the qualities that you want from a central midfielder. But as I say, he's still very raw at this level. So I think to be a direct replacement for Declan, I don't think it's the right thing to do at the moment. But he's still a good squad member to have. And I think he's only going to get better.
Fair. Well, that's where we're going to have to end things, gentlemen. And time always is the enemy. We've been going just over an hour. I'd like to thank you all for coming onto the channel, giving up your own time to make a contribution to this particular outlet. And I hope we can do it again sometime in the not too distant future, chaps. Hope you've enjoyed yourselves.
Been good. Cheers for having us all here.
Thank you.
Thanks
No
for putting
worries.
the Avengers together.
That's it, absolutely. Right, okay. But I'm going to do the Iron Supporting Food Bank promotion. We'll do the end credits. If you guys can stay, I'll see you in the green room. We'll have a little debrief afterwards. But for those of you watching, thanks for watching. Come on, you Irons, and we'll see you next time. Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons.